All right, we're here with Aaron Britton. Aaron, tell me about yourself, where you're from, and what exactly is it that you do?
I'm originally from Villa Ridge, Illinois, south of Carbondale. I went to Mounds Meridian High School, graduated in 2003. I moved to the Rockford, Illinois area in 2008. I've been up there ever since. And what I do from a fandom standpoint is, I gather schedules and scores of every team in the state. And there are approximately 750 boys basketball teams in this state, so it's a little bit of a workload. I gather Thanksgiving tournament schedules, holiday everything that's involved with the boys basketball season. I'm compiling it in a spreadsheet, and it's free to download on my website, NestoHoops.com. And I do a weekly ranking. The AP, they do it's kind of a pseudo preseason, even though it's not. It's like 2 weeks into the season, and then they don't do anything until after the Christmas tournaments are over with. But I just do it every week. Professionally, I'm an engineer at a food and beverage manufacturing facility. I've always been interested in numbers and data and statistics and the nerdy things that go along with being an engineer. And I played basketball growing up. I was on the team. I was like on the end of the bench. I was a good water boy. But the passion for basketball has always been there, and I found a way to turn it into a very interesting hobby.
In our area, 1A St. Anthony, 2A Teutopolis Lawrenceville, 3 Central, 3A Mount Zion. I mean, there's several local teams in this area. But when you look at our downstate compared to being up in the Rockford area, how do you look at, obviously, matchups, but also what goes into that too?
When I'm ranking teams, I don't get to see everyone in person like I used to. But before I had children, I was seeing over 150 games in person every year. I would be down here at the Effingham Teutopolis Holiday Tournament. I'm relying on a little bit of streaming, and just knowing or thinking what I know about what a team looks like in the wins and losses standpoint when it comes into the regards of their strength of schedule. But 1A, a 1A team up north isn't going to look substantially different to a 1A team down here physically. Up where I'm from is a small school football powerhouse over in the northwestern part of the state. But Pecatonica, Scales Mound, all of those teams are athletic enough to compete and potentially beat St. Anthony and Tuscola. They're not, as St. Anthony's a tough team. They have a tough program, and people down here maybe they get a little bit they take it for granted. But they're a tough program, and Cody has done a phenomenal job since he's been there. He got a state title. So, but St. Anthony and Tuscola are easily 2 of the top 10 teams in the state, and probably top 5. I have Tuscola number 1. St. Anthony coming off of a really nice win over 3A Olney last week, and they're probably going to take a loss or 2 in this upcoming holiday tournament. But that, from a ranking standpoint, that's not going to drop them hardly at all, because it's probably going to be to Lincoln Way East or 4A school. But if they can, I don't think they can win the tournament, but obviously if they can, then you're looking at them potentially being number 1.
The challenge of when you're doing your rankings and you have people like saying, oh, this team really isn't that good, how do you handle that?
Well, the wins and losses will eventually speak for themselves. So if there's always the internet trolls that pop up, and I'm not going to block anyone. You can say whatever you want to me. I have pretty thick skin. But if you keep winning, even if I don't think you're that good, you're probably going to creep into those rankings at some point. Now, if I miss on a couple of teams in the preseason every year, I've already missed on a couple that I can't fault the teams. I can only fault myself, because I obviously had a little higher expectation of what they could do than probably what they realistically could do. But when it comes to the word of mouth, if you asked every coach or every fan how good's your team? You know, oh, we're really good. You know, so it's you can only take it so far with what you're getting. The best thing is going and seeing a team, and then the next best thing is looking at the results. And so I have the computerized formula of strength of schedule and the NPI, which is the Nesto Power Index. It's very high tech stuff, but it's combining your opponent's winning percentage, and then it's the combination of your opponent's winning percentage. So that gives me a quick glance shot of what type of schedule are you playing. Tuscola is going to have a big matchup tonight at Casey Westfield, and to this point, Tuscola hasn't played a high caliber opponent. They're going to get one tonight, but they're in the Monticello Holiday Tournament. They're going to get some tests there, and then coming out of the Christmas tournament, their strength of schedule is going to ratchet up pretty quickly.
So, in your opinion, Aaron, 1A through 4A, who are the best, if not the best teams in the state?
We can start with Tuscola. I have them currently number 1 in 1A. 2A, there's 2 Peoria schools that have dropped down into 2A. They're traditionally have played in 3A, but Manual and Notre Dame. Manual's like 6-3 right now. All their losses are to larger schools. They're a junior-heavy team, so if they don't win it this year, they might be the odds-on favorite to win it next year. Peoria, Notre Dame, they're a long 1-3-1 half-court team. They're a tough team to play against. Manual beat them by 3 earlier in the season. Their records aren't pretty, but there were 2 really good teams. Another team in 2A, Breeze Central, even though they just lost to Olney, and St. Anthony beat Olney. It's kind of a tiger chasing its tail sort of thing. 3A. I really like Brother Rice out of Chicago. They have traditionally been 4A, and they were always opting to play up into 4A. And this year they have said, we want to play in the class that IHSA says we can play in, and that's 3A. And they're 12-0. They have 5 ranked wins already. It's one of the most impressive resumes in the state. I don't think they're the absolute best team in the state, but their resume is extremely impressive, and they have a really nice starting 5 in 4A. Quincy and Collinsville are both undefeated, and they're both in the Collinsville Holiday Tournament next week. That could be a really nice championship game. And then Pontiac is not as deep as it usually is, the Pontiac Holiday Tournament, but they have 4 really nice teams. Curie has an out-of-state loss, and they've beaten everyone else in-state. They could end up being the best team in the state. I think they have what it takes to win a 4A state championship.
Either each class for athlete in the entire state, or in general, who would that be?
The best athlete in the entire state. There's a couple in the Chicago area that you could choose from, and I'm not looking to go viral to start some nonsense here, but Bryce Hurd is transferred back into the state. He's at home in Flossmoor. He started at Kenwood a couple years ago, moved out, went to a prep school, and came back. He's an extremely athletic kid, and they have a really nice team. They have 1 loss, and it's to an out-of-state team. HF has some things going, and they're in the Big Dipper Classic in Rich Township. Then in Thornton survived Kankakee last night. They were down 3 points with 10 seconds left and ended up winning the game. Handed Kankakee their first loss. So yeah, I would probably say maybe Bryce Hurd.
When you update every week, Aaron, and you do your Chicago to south of I-80 to 1A through 4A, is it easier for you to separate them all like that, or is it easier for you to just to be able to put the 1A through 4A all at once?
I do 1A through 4A first. It gives me a pretty good idea of how I'm delineating the south of I-80 teams and the Chicago area teams, because the south of I-80, I get an email probably every week about, well, this team isn't south of I-80, so that's just like an arbitrary description of it. The original intent of the south of I-80 there was an online poll on IllinoisHighSchoolSports.com years and years ago, and it was ran by a guy named Dan Hardwick, and he's from Collinsville. There's a lot of passionate fans in Collinsville, but he wanted to get a sense for the 3 downstate sectionals in the large school. Back when there was just 2 classes, there was one team guaranteed from the downstate to get to Peoria, but there's 3 sectionals. So I'm looking at the 3 sectionals and the teams that funnel into those, and I'm grouping those into this south of I-80. And that, Dixon is not south of I-80, neither is Sterling, but they funnel traditionally through the Peoria area sectional, so they are included in those. And then Chicago, wherever the teams that I have lined up in 3A and 4A, I just want to make sure that I'm consistent with my rankings across what I have with 3A and 4A and grouping those two. Usually, Chicago area ranks itself if I have 3A and 4A done correctly.
With rankings, max preps, but a lot of people go to you for a lot of these rankings and kind of how you put everything together.
I really can't speak to the respect. I know some people really appreciate maybe a lot of people appreciate what I do. I know there's some people that think I'm just a clown, and that's fine. But IHSA, they don't particularly do any rankings. The AP has their poll, and then when the sectional seating comes around, that's feedback from the coaches. But as far as, there's a lot of holiday tournaments that, they'll have a screenshot of my rankings right next to them. I mean, it's nice to be thought of as a reputable source throughout the state. I've have a lot of connections all over the state, and some of my best friends in life I've met or either a basketball coach that I met years and years ago, and we would text every day, and then some of the other talent evaluators around the state. I'm on group texts that we're texting every day, and there's just a vast information of knowledge that we're sharing.
What would be the favorite part about this job that you do?
Well, so one, it's not a job because I'm not getting paid, but what I enjoy the most about this hobby is the data collection part of it. At the beginning of the year, it's an empty spreadsheet, and it's just kind of it's bare, and I don't have any data to look at. And as each passing week, there's more wins, there's more losses, there's more data, there's more feedback for me to look at and sift through. And I'm a big geek when it comes to stuff like that. So by the time we get to February, there's a substantial amount of scores in there, and I keep all the I have a history going back 10 years of these spreadsheets, and I'm always going through them, just looking for any little bit of trend that I can pick up on to maybe give me an edge for rankings versus what the AP has or other people have.
Aaron, thank you for taking the time for me, making the trip all the way down from Rockford. I know you're heading to Casey tonight, but we got a lot of good basketball in the area, and we're fortunate to see people who are succeeding and seeing you put the rankings together for our area. So thank you for taking the time for me.
Tyler, it's my pleasure. Thanks for making this happen.